Welcome everyone to our first Moby Scottish Student Challenge. My name is Katrina Jordan and I am a Future Skills Manager at Construction Scotland Innovation Centre. This morning we are launching a student challenge for the Resource Efficient House, currently located in Ravenscraig, Motherwell. We're delighted that you have joined us today for the launch. This morning we will start with an introduction to what the student challenge entails, then moving on to a background of the Resource Efficient House, an explanation of the challenge and how you can get involved. George Clark will share his thoughts and ideas around the student challenge, and we will end with opportunity for question and answers. Before we go any further, if you want to ask a question, please click on the question icon and post it there. We will try and answer as many questions as we can in our Q&A slots. The webinar will be recorded and the link will be posted on our social network channels over the next few days. Your feedback is extremely valuable, so we will take all questions or comments on board, even if we don't have time to answer them all this morning. Finally, there will be some polls throughout the webinar, which we are keen for you to participate along the way. I would like to welcome our panellists today, Jerry Ruffles from Moby, Michael Brook, an architect, and Stuart Thompson, an architect and lecturer at the City of Glasgow College. Jerry has been with Moby since it set up in 2017. He is their Head of Education with responsibility for Moby's range of university and college courses, training programmes, new education and skills development as their student challenges and competitions. He joined Moby after 25 years in higher education, lecturing and running courses in construction and the built environment, design and architecture. Before Jerry kicks us off with we have our first poll. Which area of the built environment are you interested in? Architecture, urban design, civil engineering, environmental technologies, or interior design? If you post your answer, and we'll look at the results in a moment. Most people are predominantly interested in architecture and environmental technologies. That's a great range. Jerry will now explain to us what a student challenge is.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm just trying to see if I can get my sorry. Yeah, good morning, Jerry. Yes, thanks very much for that introduction, Katrina. Yeah, Jerry Ruffles, head of education for Moby. Before we kind of get started with the details of the challenge and indeed talk a bit about some of our previous challenges, just like to say a little bit about Moby, the Moby Ministry of Building Innovation and Education. For those of you who perhaps don't know too much about us, all the details about what we do and what our aims are you can easily see on our website, moby.org.uk. But in essence, you could sum up Moby's activities. We're about creating better homes and shaping brighter futures for young people. Moby was set up, as Katrina just said, 4 years ago now by George Clark, our founder, who is very, very passionate about homes and housing and how we live. And as he often says, home is the most important piece of architecture in our lives. It affects us all, our families, our communities. And he really started Moby to create a generational shift in home building. We've got kind of a two-pronged approach, I suppose. One is actually to create better homes, to design better homes, bring the house building industry into the 21st century. And secondly, to educate young people. Construction and built environment isn't often seen as a very exciting and attractive career option for young people. And one of the things we want to do is to kind of try to encourage young people to come into the industry and see what an incredibly exciting career option it can be. So Moby is about creating better homes and creating new courses and education and training for young people to really get into home design. One of the problems, across the country, no matter where you go, is new house building is not very exciting, really. Everything looks the same. And is this really the best we can do when we see so many really exciting pieces of design coming in the automotive industry, in the IT, into your phones and all the rest of it? House building hasn't really changed traditionally for a very, very long time. And usually new houses are not very energy or resource efficient. So this is what we've really kind of got to change. The education side of Moby, our courses focus on design, production, technology, economics, leadership. We've set up courses over the last 4 years, really, ranging from HNCs and HNDs, nationals. We've got BA and BSc programs, we've got master's programs and a PhD program. So our educational courses try to cover the whole spectrum, and we're growing and enlarging and increasing these all the time. And we try to concentrate on modern methods of construction, looking to the future. So it's about home and home design, alternative construction methods, sustainability, energy efficiency, and so on and so forth, like this. And the other way we really engage with young people, or try to engage with young people, is through our series of design challenges, design competitions. And really, they kind of hopefully are a great way to engage with young people who perhaps haven't considered designing homes, how we're going to, or how they are going to live in the future, and hopefully to kind of inspire them to think about careers and going on into the construction industry. And we've run 4 or 5 challenges, national design competitions now, which really have affected some young people who perhaps previously hadn't thought about construction or design as a career option. And again, before obviously COVID and lockdown, it gave us a fantastic opportunity to get out into schools and colleges to work with young people, whether it was just master classes around drawing, how to tackle a design, how you would go about designing a house, all the things you need to think about. Helping them with projects, setting little projects, and getting to do short presentations. And again, all the details of our challenges over the last 4 years are available on our website, /challenges. So far, we've done 5 national challenges. The first one, back in 2017, was to design school accommodation. Our challenges tend to be, if we can, sponsored by somebody, and they are real life projects. The first one was some school accommodation, which was actually for a school down in Coventry. The second one was using off-site design construction for student halls or residence. That was sponsored by DEC Design Engineering Construct and Class of Your Own. We then did a multi-generational living design competition, which really consisted of a series of 3 metre by 3 metre by 3 metre steel pods, which you could have as many of these as you liked, and you could add to the building and so on and so forth. And it was really about multi-generational living, where you might kind of start off with just you and your partner, and you would expand, increasing these pods as your family developed, and perhaps your parents would come and live, and grandparents as they got older, and so on and so forth. Last year we did the Home of 2030 Young Persons Challenge, which was with the RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, and the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. This was really for young people, probably the biggest of our challenges, looking at the future of housing in Home of 2030. How are you young people thinking you're going to live in the future, and what smart technologies do you think are going to make your lives easier and more comfortable, and how you will be living your lives. And this was really kind of thinking about working from home before everybody started working from home. And this year we're running two challenges. One is a local challenge. We've started a series of regional challenges. We've got one in Sheffield, we've got one in the southwest of England, we've got one in Sunderland, which is specifically for schools. We're also running a Riverside Sunderland, the University Design Challenge with TRADA, the Timber Trades Association, which is again a large redevelopment happening in Sunderland. So far we've run 5 national challenges. Each one is attracted a phenomenal response from young people, and we've just been absolutely amazed at the standard and the passion that we've seen from young people of all ages, and in all our challenges are open from young people from, well, the home of 2030 was actually from 7 years old upwards, but usually from 11 years up until adults. And now here we are about to launch our Made in Scotland Resource Efficient Challenge with the City of Glasgow College, and to explain and talk a little bit more about that, I will hand you back to Catriona. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerry. And just a reminder, if you've got any questions for Jerry, please post them on the chat box. Before we find out a little bit more about the student challenge, we now have Michael Brook, who registered as an architect in 1972. Apart from a brief tour of duty when he was chief architect for a Scottish local authority before setting up his own private practice, he then retired to concentrate on design and delivery of his own low to zero carbon emission house, and he's now been asked to front a team to further develop a regeneration project. Michael is going to talk to us and explain a little bit more what is the resource efficient house.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. And thank you for the introduction. It makes it a little bit easier for me to launch into a piece of technology I have no previous experience of. I joined the Tide Green volumetric project about 17 or 18 years ago. The project was set up by Jacqueline Schindler and Robert Cowie, and we combined with a Swiss company also run by Jacqueline Schindler called Userhus. And we sought to provide substance to the calls for more efficient building and addressing some of the production and energy use in that process of looking at overall efficiency. I use the generic term volumetric. That means largely off-site manufacture, which creates a three-dimensional structure fully or partially fitted out before shipment to a site. Our first volumetric project was the one at BRE Ravenscraig, and was a partial process with site works required to construct the final form. This project was heavily focused on a variety of energy recovery methods. It also was a volumetric process that allowed more design latitude and potential than our second project, which you're going to see in a video that follows, which was set up at BRE Watford. And this project was targeted at a more complete off-site construction, targeting the need to produce energy efficient homes which could meet a demand for 1, 2 or 3 bedroom houses, which might properly address some aspects of our housing shortfall. And I've got in my notes here brackets crisis, but this is not a political discussion. This is a more prosaic project and formed the basis of an actual pilot development of 42 houses. It probably has less relevance to the challenge students, but it is relevant in the overall understanding of volumetric construction. Now, I'm going to ask for a video to be run. It's looking a bit aged and of its time. It's many years out of date, but I hope that that will be better than me just talking. You can see some visualization and there's a voiceover, and you can look at the overall 2 projects, and then the last little video shows you the work that was done on the site at Ravenscraig. So without further ado, can we run the video?
In 2011, Ty Green and our Swiss partner Userhus set out to develop a wide range of volumetric house types that would be affordable for buyers and occupiers alike. Our aim was to help eliminate fuel poverty and reduce maintenance costs for people in the UK's affordable housing sector. Encouraged by the support that we received from the Scottish Government, we pledged to build airtight, well-insulated, energy-efficient homes that could be quickly erected on site with as little waste as possible. These homes would have high-quality interiors that would help keep maintenance costs down and provide a comfortable place to live. Ty Green's first step was to build a demonstration volumetric house at the BRE Innovation Park at Ravenscraig in Scotland. Volumetric housing can be unfairly likened to prefabricated or timber frame housing, so our aim at Ravenscraig was to show just how versatile this particular construction method can be. For the project, we exploited the full potential of volumetric construction, as well as demonstrating energy capture and retention features. After constructing our resource-efficient house at Ravenscraig, we built 2 more demonstration houses at BRE's Innovation Park in Watford, this time showcasing a complete PV roof system. The 2 Watford houses are a perfect demonstration of the space and quality standards that can be achieved with factory-constructed volumetric housing. Right now they're being closely tested and monitored so we can provide evidence of their performance when occupied over a period of time. The life of each Ty Green house begins in our factory, where the interiors are constructed within an insulated envelope of engineered timber floor and ceiling with structural insulated panel walls. Inside this individual envelope, the houses are fully wired, plumbed, fitted out and decorated. Quality thresholds on the factory production line are maintained using the quality management and environmental systems set by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO 9000 and 14000. Before they leave the factory, the units are tested to ensure they are airtight, energy efficient and achieve our ultra-low carbon emissions goal. By manufacturing most of the house off-site, we can achieve a high and consistent standard of finish and quality without being affected by the weather or any other variables that traditionally have an impact on construction times and costs. And because the manufacturing process progresses in parallel with site preparation, it takes only a matter of hours to land and connect the units themselves to the pre-prepared site services. Therefore, construction times can be reduced significantly. We've also reduced waste on site to almost zero, helping lower construction costs and any potential environmental damage. Another benefit of off-site construction is that traffic movements in and out of the building site are reduced. Energy efficiency should start with the best that can be achieved from the construction fabric. No part of the main envelope has a U value greater than 0.15 watts per meter K, and some elements are significantly below this threshold. On our Watford site, we are experimenting with added external insulation and triple glazed windows to see at what point this additional insulation begins to produce negligible benefits. The engineered and controlled manufacturing process ensures our houses achieve an infiltration rate of no greater than 1.0 cubic meters per meter square per hour. The internal air quality is maintained by a mechanical ventilation heat recovery unit, which discharges recovered heat into the hot water cylinder. In some of our properties, the hot water cylinder has an integral air source heat pump to increase the water temperature further before a final uplift by the electrical immersion heater. Space heating is generally provided by simple electrical panel heaters, and we are currently experimenting with a wet heating system using a NIBE exhaust air heat pump to see what potential benefits it provides. The most dramatic feature of one of our Watford demonstration houses is the complete PV roof system, which replaces the conventional tiled or slated roof. This roofing alone could provide the household with up to 80% of its general energy needs, and we want to explore how best to utilise this captured energy without reverting to a feed-in tariff scheme. We have started to examine the efficiency of lithium iron phosphate battery storage, but our long-term objective is to examine its potential for a community energy scheme. Tigrian can and is building houses that match or exceed the recommendations in the RIBA Case for Space Report 2011. Our RSL house types are designed to meet the Housing for Varying Needs Design Guide 1998, as well as the often onerous Housing Association technical standards. Our houses are set to be certified as Gold Standard Section 7 of the Scottish Building Standards, and we expect to obtain a comparable certification through the BRE Home Quality Mark in due course. Tigrian and Oezerhuis are pleased to be able to deliver a completely new way of building houses in the UK. The finished result is a smart, cost-effective, affordable and energy-efficient home. From the foundations being laid to the roof going on, our houses are completed faster and at an overall lower cost than most other types of social housing, meaning better use of capital for the housing sector. Tigrian homes are affordable, energy efficient and sustainable.
I hope that that fly through, fly past, fly over couple of videos gives you some background now to what we mean by, or what we certainly have meant by volumetric housing here in Tigrian. And I hope that that stimulates you to think hard about how you might expand and extend and take this form of architecture forward into the next decade, now that we're all aged and probably not capable of doing much more than we've done to date. So thank you very much indeed, and I look forward to hearing questions from the floor.
Thanks, Michael. We're now going to look at some drone footage of the site that will put it a little bit more in context.
Hi, Katrina, we can't hear you yet. You just want to unmute your mic?
Yep, sorry about that. So the drone footage takes us from the resource efficient house, which is currently located at Ravenscraig Motherwell, North Lanarkshire. The site here is shown in the direction of north and shows how the building is situated within its environment. We can see there are solar panels on the roof, and the building has scaffolding around it in preparation for deconstruction and relocation. One of the challenges will be, how do you deconstruct the building and transport it across a busy, built-up city in the heart of the Central Belt? You will need to think about the logistics of this. As you can see, the house is situated in a residential setting. Once deconstructed, the building will be relocated to the west of Motherwell in Glasgow's city centre. It will be located on Cathedral Street, close to the City of Glasgow College. Here is the proposed site. Another challenge will be to decide where the building will be positioned based on the site conditions and sun path. This will form your decision, and then you can begin to think about design options for this building. The site is located on a busy thoroughfare setting and has a steeply graded site, which will bring its own challenges. We will now look a little bit more into the brief in more detail. So as Michael spoke about, we can see the resource efficient house is currently located in Ravenscraig in Motherwell. Your challenge is to solve some construction problems and propose design solutions for an extension. The first challenge is to think about logistics, transportation of the existing house. How do you transport an existing house to a site, and what do you need to do to prepare the site for relocation? Challenge 2, how is the building reconstructed on site, and the positioning of the building? Design challenge 3, design an extension for the house. You can design a flexible, self-contained annex for other family members, old or young. It can have a range of uses, maybe an office, studio, workshop, or a yoga room by day, and a family entertainment room by night. What could the additional space be used for, and what needs to be in it? Challenge 4, can we make this building even more efficient? Could it have a ground source heat pump, photovoltaics as a new cladding, or a grey water system? What can you do to improve the energy efficiency of the building and reduce its carbon footprint? We have 4 challenges. You can carry out all 4 challenges, or just one of them, or 2 of them. It's up to you. Working in groups will help with different knowledge in different areas. It's key to work as a team, so if you can, collaborate. This will help with ideas and workload. There are 3 submission age categories. We have 11 to 15, 16 to 18, and then 19 to plus years. So a range of ages can enter, and you can carry out a range of challenges. Challenge 1 or all 4 challenges. It's up to yourself. In terms of submission details, you can submit a physical entry or a digital entry. And this is, please provide this as a guide. 2 A1 boards showing your design solutions, your site history and heritage report. You'll probably want to make a model. However, we only need photographs of the model, but remember to keep the model safe as you may want to display it later in the exhibition. Please send your submissions to MOBI's Head of Education, Jerry Ruffles, via email, jerry@mobi.org.uk. Also, if you want to do any follow-up sessions with Jerry, email him and he'll be happy to do so with your school or college. Also, visit the website www.mobi.org.uk for all the project information. All the relevant drawings, site plans can be accessed there. They will also be given today as handouts. And the submission entry should be submitted by the 28th of June, Friday the 28th of June 2021. How will your design challenge be assessed? So we'll think about how has the submission considered the site and its surroundings? How has it influenced the design? How does the submission reflect people living in the building and how they use the building? How is your submission considered living in Glasgow and the future of living in Glasgow in response to climate change? So how's your submission focused on the greenness of the home? Does it protect the planet and its environment? These are things that we will consider when looking at submission entries. Just as a reminder, the building is currently located here at Ravenscraig and it's going to be relocated to City of Glasgow College and this site here. So you think about where on the site, first of all, would you position your building, and then think about the other challenges and how you would address them. Here's a site plan showing the site boundary, and here we have the City of Glasgow College building to the right of it. And then a 3D model, so thinking about how your building would be located within that site. Thanks. I think we're going to pass now back to Jerry. Before we do that, we have a poll question. What do you think is important when thinking about building design? How the building looks, the aesthetics of the building, comfort for the user, or sustainability, or that the building will last, the durability. So what do you think is the most important when thinking about building design? Sustainability, excellent, and comfort for you, the user, which is really, really important in any design. How does the user use the building, and how does the building facilitate the user? And sustainability has been the top one, which is excellent. We will now open up our questions for the panel, and we've had quite a few questions posted, so that's been great. So thank you very much. There was one right at the beginning, if I can remember correctly. So does all participants, guest speakers, want to turn their cameras on, and we can maybe open up the questions? I think, Jerry, this one was aimed towards you. I think somebody was keen to maybe sponsor a project or a future project, and I think that's something that you're open to do, and maybe contact yourself directly, and the email address is there. I think that was one of the questions that came in.
Absolutely. We're always looking for sponsors, somebody who's, whether you're just wanting to sponsor a prize for some of the winners or the shortlisted, I mean, if you're a company, some of our most valuable prizes have been special trips out, like a day out at an architect studio, model making exercises. So sponsorship can come from just, taking some students around your factory, having a day working with your designers and architects. Right through to actually money, some cash for the winners and so on and so forth. So yeah, all our challenges are being sponsored. This one, in fact, is being sponsored by the City Charitable Trust in Glasgow. Yeah, anybody who wants to sponsor us, no matter how small or how big, please just get in touch with me. It'd be great.
Great, thanks, Jerry. Michael, there was another question that came in regards to the airtightness of the buildings. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this one. There is issues are perceived or real with infection control with these airtight buildings. Do you have a response to that question? I think you're muted. Sorry, Michael.
On my screen.
That's
you.
It? Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
When you have an airtight building, you've obviously got to bring in ventilation. Otherwise, you're just going to build up harmful moisture on surfaces, and before you know where you are, you're going to be overwhelmed with black mold. So what we do is we put in a mechanical ventilation system, but we also add heat recovery to that. So the air that we bring into the building is fresh air for every gulp that the MVHR plant uses. What we do, though, to prevent you sitting in ice cold drafts is we heat that air as it comes into the building. And and that way we remove the temperature differential between outside and inside air. The air that comes in is filtered, not just to take the half bricks out of the atmosphere, but also to take out pollen and dusts as well. So in fact, you're getting an improved breathing environment within an airtight building. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that does. That's great, Michael. Thank you. And we have another question from Elena, and she's asking, is there a way to meet other people in their age group? So I'm assuming that's maybe so they can carry out a project to get, a collaborative submission. So that's something that Jerry, we would maybe need to have a think about. If we could, who's interested, who's registered, and how we could maybe categorise the age groups.
Absolutely, that's a really interesting question. That's a really nice idea. We're all about group work and collaboration, and strange enough, with one of the other projects the Riverside Sunderland challenge we've got on at the moment, which does require interdisciplinary groups. So we want some architects, quantity surveyors, engineers. Not all institutions, colleges, and universities can afford that luxury of that range. So we are actively setting some groups from different colleges to work together, and we've all learned a hell of a lot in the last year about how we can do that with Zooms and Teams and conference calls and all the rest of it. So yeah, we would love to do that. I mean, to make the competition that much more exciting. Yeah, we think it'd be fantastic to have teams from across the north, south, east, west of Scotland. Yeah, if you want to do that, just get in touch with us, and we don't know quite how we'll do it, but we'll work around that, put you in touch with like-minded people to build your team, share your ideas, and yeah, wow, great.
I think that's a great idea, and I suppose that brings us on to another question. Just we have 4 student challenges, so we just want to make sure that the people that are going to enter the student challenges understand that we have 4, but they can select whichever challenge they want to select. They could complete all 4 challenges, or maybe just 1 challenge, and that's really important, I think, isn't it, Jerry?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do as much or as little as you've got the time or the inclination, or depending on your skills. If you again, as we just said, if perhaps your skills are going to be in groundworks or logistics or project management or the engineering side, well then great. Perhaps designing the extension is not for you. Perhaps that's an opportunity when you could talk to a design team in another college or another school. But in your own group, if you just want to concentrate on the logistics or the engineering side or the energy efficiency, looking at smart technologies, that's great. We just want you to, as many people as possible, would have fun with this. So we're not saying you think, oh God, I'm not very good at designing. How am I going to do that? You do as much or a little as you want, but just have fun with it. Let us know what you're thinking about.
Brilliant, thanks. And then there's just one last question that's just come in. I think this, Stuart, this is maybe aimed at you. Will we have, so we have access to the electronic drawings of the existing building, but will they have access to the site model? Is that something that we could provide for the students?
Absolutely, yeah, there'll be access to CAD drawings, PDFs, DWGs, and we'll get access to site models and things like that as well. If you need any particular type of drawing that we can manage to get for you, just give us a shout and we'll try and get it organised for you. Okay.
Brilliant, thanks very much. So now we have George Clark has joined us. George is an architect, a writer and a TV presenter. He set up his independent television production company, Amazing Productions, to focus on a range of factual programming for all the main UK broadcasters. George also enjoys lecturing and is passionate about the way architecture can transform everyday lives. His aim is to make architecture popular and accessible to everybody. In 2017, he founded Moby, his educational charity to inspire young people to revolutionise the way we think about homes. We need younger generations to define how they want to live and in the future, and Moby will help them do that. George will now talk about why Moby is working in Scotland and why we should engage in the student challenge. Why you should engage in the student challenge and the importance of energy efficiency now and in the response to climate change. Welcome, George. Oh, I think you're maybe muted.
George, if you just hover over your...
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, another bit of technology and another app I had to download and something else I had to put on my computer, as well as all the billions of others. Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be joining you today. Yeah, I'll just say a few words about Moby, really. You've probably heard quite a lot already, but I just thought to give you a little bit of a, I suppose, a personal side as to why Moby was started and where we're at and why we're working with you guys in Scotland. I began Moby really because I was worried about the quality of home design and home innovation across the entire country. A lot of homes are needed, hundreds of thousands of homes are being built, and on a personal level, I wasn't quite sure that they were doing all the things that I thought the 21st society would need. In some ways, we were still building in quite traditional, conventional forms of construction, and things that were quite inefficient, that might be quite environmentally unfriendly, or certainly not as environmentally friendly as we should be for a lot of the targets that a number of governments have set for 2050. So it wasn't really about, I think just so everyone's clear, it wasn't really about kind of style of architecture, because I love beautiful old buildings as well as beautiful modern contemporary ones. As long as they're beautiful and they're very well designed and very ecologically friendly, then I don't really mind whether something looks slightly traditional in style or slightly modern in style. And obviously, depending on where a building is built, you know, you can have a whole debate about what something should look like. And I think what's brilliant about launching these challenges in Scotland, and Jerry might have mentioned it, we've launched many others across England, and we've been consulting with people in Wales. So when we had a chance of doing this in Scotland, I was absolutely buzzing, because you look at what makes Scotland unique in terms of its architecture. It has a distinctive look. It has buildings that were built to stand the test of time. You know, there's some wonderful piece of architecture in Scotland that I've seen that have been there for 150, 200, 250, 300 years. And then you get into all that fantastic debate about what really makes a green building. I don't know if it's brilliant to design a building that might be super green but only lasts 20 years, when a lot of the materials used and the embodied energy could potentially last 200-300 years. So is a green building something that's super green and just lasts 20 years? Or is a green building something that's fairly green and lasts 300, 400, 500 years? And that's, I think, a really interesting debate about context, where a building's placed, the traditions of that place as well. I think it's really important to understand the traditions of a place, and then think about what the future means for homes and housing. And for me, a home that's been designed in Scotland should look different, completely different to one that's been designed in Wales, Ireland, or England, because the context is different, the history is different, and your beliefs in certain materials might be different too. So I'm really excited about this. I think you'll learn a lot from Moby and from the team about what's inspirational and what's innovative design, and looking at new methods of construction like offsite manufacturing and things like that. But I think it's really important to state the obvious that this is a Scottish design challenge. You know, it is about Scotland and showing that proud passion, if you like, for great architecture in your part of the world. And when I look at some of my favourite Scottish architects, you know, like Charles Reckley Mackintosh and some of the wonderful work that he's done, I still, because not just because they were good buildings, but because they were beautiful buildings. And I think that's something that I'm really keen on with Moby, that yes, they can be innovative. Yes, they can look at new forms of construction. Yes, they can be various styles. Absolutely, we need to be driving to be zero carbon. If we're going to meet the targets of 2050, we actually need to be moving at a much faster pace. And that's something that Moby's pushing for. But more than anything else, there's no point in doing all of those things if it's not a beautiful building. So beauty is just as important as all the other items that I've listed out. So yeah, I hope that just gives you a little bit of background about Moby. It's very much about home. It's very much about what home means to everybody. And when you think we've got the challenge of building millions of houses across the entire country over the next 70, 80 years, I think it's really important that we start pushing the boundaries of great design.
Excellent, thank you, George. And I hope you'll be able to stay around to answer some questions. Before Jerry's going to now talk about a little bit more about the previous student challenges that Moby have carried out.
Yep. Can I share my screen?
Yep, we're seeing it.
We can see it now.
Can you? We'll just catch up to where I left off earlier. Bear with me. Right. Sorry, yeah, get the right clicky thing. Yes, what I was just going to talk about quickly before we move on and answer some more questions is perhaps a quick look at some of our entries from previous challenges to give you a sort of idea of what we might or would like to see. And as I said, you know, our challenges have ranged from very, very young people right through to postgraduate graduates. So hopefully there's something for everybody. And the one thing which has always absolutely amazed us is just the quality, whether you're an 11-year-old or you're a 25-year-old master's student, you know, the quality and the passion and the design and the excitement that's come through has been fantastic indeed. Our very, very first challenge was one, I think you can see in the middle there, Nottingham Girls Academy, was won by a group of 12, 13-year-old girls who had never really done design. The school struggled with design and art and design technology, but they entered this modular package looking at future technologies and how it could be green with such passion that they knocked the pants off some of the university students, possibly because they weren't that up to speed with planning regulations and building regulations, so they just designed, whereas some of the older ones were thinking, well, it's a wacky, great idea, but it'll never pass building approval, so we better not go down that route. But just recently, just before Christmas, we finished probably our largest challenge. I did mention it earlier on. the home of 2030, when we asked people from age 7 years old right through to graduates to think about their homes of the future, how they might want to live in the future, and engaging smart and future technologies, energy sufficiencies, all the usual things. How are we going to be living in our homes? And again, I think I mentioned, we considered more and more people working from home, which was before COVID came along. And we were also looking at how people could live longer. One of the parts of this brief was an aging population, how we could live longer in our homes without having to be tucked away in care homes, and engaging smart technologies and this sort of thing. But just very quickly, just to go through some examples of some of the work that came in. And I think one of the things which we kind of really were excited about, and is really, really important with homes, is the sense it's not just a house, it's not just a home, it's about creating a community, it's about placemaking. And this urban community self-sufficient home here, which was actually the overall winner of the competition, kind of went away from the brief of just looking at a home of 2030, but kind of went back to a community. And a lot of the entries did look at this communal living. We're going to be living together more. And this design was just about self-sufficiency. A group of people could all live together. And it was actually on a site. It was an old council house garaging site that had been derelict in Nottingham for a lot of years. And the idea was to be reclaimed by a community that wants to be totally self-sufficient, not just in terms of technology with photovoltaic and ground source heat pumps and rainwater harvesting and all the stuff, but how they can actually live. Those of you old enough to remember The Good Life TV comedy years ago, when they're going to be growing all their own vegetables, even having a small farm. So that was Rachel's idea. Incredibly passionate idea, and she was a graduate last year from Nottingham University. She's so excited about community living and self-sufficiency. She's now working with an architect in Hamburg, Germany, that actually specializes in community self-sufficiency living. So she's actually living her dream. And she kind of, again, all the details, the full set of drawings, all the specifications of all the home of 2030 finalists. The short list of finalists are all on our website if you want to have a look at them and hopefully get some inspiration. But with Rachel's home here, she even kind of worked out the demographics and the space sizings, not just for the humans that were going to be living in the community, but the sheep and the chickens and the dogs and the hens and the 10,000 bees. Absolutely really exciting design. Another entry, again, not just the family home, but looking at social housing for single parents and their children. Again, single parents who might have had some struggles along the way would benefit from sharing a space, living in a community. Again, a really exciting project here, really kind of exploring and making the most of open spaces, a lot of structural intelligent glass, again, photovoltaics, rainwater harvesting, all the usual thing. But again, within its little self-contained community, having green spaces and so on and so forth. So another slightly different approach. Again, a similar one from Ella Rogers, who likewise was the overall runner-up of the competition, looked at a community for elderly women who could live together and share spaces together in the community and actually have their families around them. So very exciting ideas here. And from younger students, we had the students from colleges of further education, just some examples of colleges of further education. Again, like with this challenge in many ways, to get the most out of students participating, if you are in a college, we try to tie the brief around perhaps some of the modules that you'll be doing. This Scottish one, obviously, with the logistics of deconstructing and moving the energy efficient house, reconstructing it, looking at a new site, looking at the issues of the groundworks, providing the services and all this sort of stuff. hopefully it kind of fits in with modules that you might be doing around conversion, adaptation, project management, this sort of thing. So as and where we can tie in the brief to what you're actually doing at school or college, then it makes life so much easier, obviously. And these entries were from a BTEC and HNC students who, as part of the group project, were already looking at off-site construction, volumetric construction, pods and so on and so forth. So their home of 2030 was very, very much around modular pods, volumetric construction, and how, as your family grew, you could add on. So it wasn't just putting on the ordinary extension, but you could be providing extra pods and modules and extend as the family grew, and providing granny flats for the elderly and so on and so forth. And as you got older, you could kind of downsize. So these are the finalists from that age group. And again, some very, very young students who kind of followed the same sort of thing, modular volumetric designs, mostly exploiting green roofs and so on and so forth. But again, you can possibly see there the difference in the quality between the really young and the HNC students was not that fantastic, not that great. So just some examples of the work that, the sort of things that we're probably looking at, hoping to get from you in Scotland, something hopefully very, very different. And the point of looking at the say the self-sufficient urban community, be exciting, have fun with this. Don't just be tied down because we say it's a family home. It's got to be a family home for your average family. Just be creative and exciting. Just one of the ones that we try to, as I said earlier on, with looking at prizes and opportunities. This was going back to 2019. The winners of our Moby Challenge. This was the modular 3 meter by 3 meter by 3 meter steel pods. The idea of this brief, it was sponsored by the Manufacturing Technology Centre and the Construction Innovation Hub, who wanted to build a house, wanted a design of a house that could be built purely robotically. So the brief was around, the robots could construct these 3 meter by 3 meter steel pods, and you could have up to 15 of these things to create your family home. And the prize for this was actually having a professional model made and a prototype. A cross-section of the finished house was actually built, costing a huge amount of money, in fact, and this was showcased at UK Construction Week. So, in terms of prizes, it didn't come much better than that. So far, the prizes for this challenge, this competition, as with all our challenges, everybody gets, all the shortlisted finalists will get their own certificate. Special certificate, depending on how far you get through the competition, signed by George. There's going to be a £250 prize for the winning team, the winners of each age category, and £150 for the runners-up from each age category, and hopefully some more prizes and trips and experiences will follow as the competition develops. We're going to hold at the moment, obviously, it'll be a virtual exhibition of all the finalists, your solutions, your designs, your models, and all the rest of it. But who knows? Later on in the year, hopefully we can stage a real live exhibition. Actually, put your work in. And you can all come along, maybe some little presentations, some opportunities to talk about it. Hopefully we'll all get together and we'll all kind of have an all-round celebration. So there we are. I think that's enough for me. It's just sort of capital I on Moby, home, inspiration, education, innovation. So thanks very much. I'll hand back to Catriona.
Great, thank you, Jerry. Some really fantastic previous student submissions. So I can't wait to see what the Scottish Student Challenge come up with. We're just going to move on to our final poll, and then we're going to open up any more question and answers. So which challenge do you think, based on what you've learned or what you've seen this morning, you would like to take part in? Challenge 1, 2, 3 or 4, or all of them? You just post your answer and the results will be in a second. All of them, yeah, I think that's great. And challenge 3 coming in second place. I think there's great opportunity to do some really excellent collaborative work here. We'll be excited to see your submissions. To finish off, we're going to open up the questions, and we've had quite a few questions in the chat box. But again, if you have any further questions, please post them just now, and we'll be able to answer them. We had a question coming in regards to the mechanical ventilation heat recovery, Michael, saying that there's alternative passive techniques such as the passive stack. Do you think this would work as an alternative air handling unit? Do you have any thoughts around alternatives to the VRHR?
Yeah, first of all, we've been at Ty Green, we've been concentrating on producing large numbers of houses that will go towards meeting our housing shortfall. The passive stack system demands quite an individually cultured piece of architecture, and that may be very suitable for one-offs or a high degree of repetition, but you're beginning to drive the agenda by the shape of the building and not necessarily getting the most efficient way of dealing with air handling. So I can't comment in detail other than I'm not sure that passive stack effect is going to be applicable to large-scale off-site manufacture of housing. It's more suited to one-off, where you can look at your orientation. You're not committed to sitting within a street plan or fitting into some form of predetermined architectural space. I should have added on my first comments on MVHR that we, of course, are recovering all the latent and sensible heat gains within the building before returning that to the MVHR unit, and then to transfer that energy from one side of the outgoing air into the warming the incoming air. I've now lost the track of what I was going to say. I was going to tackle one of the other questions that he raised. I'm a little bit concerned about the use of the word lightweight and sound insulation. There are very, very strict regulations for sound transmission, certainly within the Scottish regulations. If you concentrate on those and don't do something reckless like plant your MVHR on a party wall, it should ideally sit on a base or an external wall, then just sensible design decisions will not become problematic within new forms of volumetric construction. I really ought to wind up and let other questionnaires get in, but I hope that's kind of addressed some of the questions that
yeah, I think it has. Thanks, Michael.
Just get this idea of light buildings out. I mean, our video started with don't think about timber frame and don't think about prefabs when you're thinking about off-site manufacture.
Okay, yeah. And another question's come in, and I think it's in regards to, we're talking about affordable housing, and is basically the questions around the challenge, and is the challenge open for to all sectors of the housing market equally? And I think the answer to that is yes, and I think Jerry and Stuart would agree with me in saying that the student should think about the challenge to be inclusive to all and to all end users. Do you agree with that, Stuart?
Absolutely. The thing is to look at this and be inventive and come up with some awesome ideas. And what we're looking for is just something that completely different, something that deals with all the modular stuff and the off-site stuff that everyone's been speaking about this morning. But also, what do you think? We're looking for people just to be fabulous in what they're doing, come up with some really fantastic proposals and something that might be a wee bit different that none of us have maybe thought of before. would be absolutely fantastic, and seeing how that develops. So absolutely, yep.
Definitely, thanks. Another question, you know, I suppose which kind of is attached to this, is there a budget for the design? I don't think there's no budget for the design, but we want to keep in mind, you know, zero carbon, energy efficiency, economic designs, don't we, Jerry? I think.
That's right. Yeah, we haven't got a specific budget, so we're not. No, we really want you to be creative and exciting, not try to tie down and saying, "Well, I've got a brilliant idea, but we can never afford that." But obviously within reason, you know.
Definitely.
So
And
part of the judging, sorry, part of the judging, the criteria, what we're looking at, we aren't going to be you know, comparing some, they're using ground source heat pump and they're saving £10,000 over this other entry. We're not going to be using you know, costs and that kind of thing in terms of judging who's done better or otherwise. So no.
Great. And I think this question's maybe for Michael and Mark. When we think about designing, we're always thinking about how a building sits in its context and its building orientation, and how important is that for this resource efficient house and its potential extension.
And am I faced with that question?
Either yourself or Stuart. I'm just, when the students start thinking about design and where they're going to locate this building on the site, that's something that they need to think about in the sun path and the context of the site, don't they?
I think you do. Any architect should be looking at the environmental, in the biggest sense of the word, context of the building and what it's expected to do. Whether you can, I mean, at your project in Glasgow, you've got an open site, so you've got some degree of freedom of orientation and positioning, but that's not always the case. You're often condemned to sit with a street pattern, and it really is a matter of judgment at the time, and you've got to take advantage of many natural resources that your particular site affords you.
Definitely, I think so. One final question, Jerry, that I'd seen had come in is, I think it's a school project and maybe a potential for another challenge. There's a building near Perth High School, and it has an amazing new enabling accommodation for disabled people with complex needs. This would be a great student challenge as it introduces young people to accessibility issues and get to know some of the customers. So that's something that maybe if they would maybe want to follow up, to contact yourself, Jerry.
Well, yes, absolutely. Please, strangely enough, yeah, we're looking at a challenge. Not necessarily a student, well, it will be a student challenge, but we're looking around a student project for one of our courses next year, for architectural technologists actually, but we're actually looking around perhaps not so much a kind of a hospital or a hospice or a Maggie Centre type of thing, but a community somewhere specifically for people with disabilities and special needs. So yeah, I would love to talk to you guys. Please get in touch and we'll have a chat and see what we can develop. Great.
That sounds great. And just, I suppose, as a kind of final point in terms of the design, the building should be inclusive for all. So, you know, helping people with maybe assisted living needs as well, dementia friendly design, so inclusive building for all, with a fabulous extension. So we can't wait to see the entries, which is great. So I think we'll just finishing up there. So I just want to thank you everyone for joining this morning. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we can't wait to see what you come up with. All the content has been provided as a handout, but for any further information, please visit the MOBI website, which will be posted on the chat box. A big thank you to all our guest speakers and the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre for hosting the webinar, and excellent work as always, Danielle. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all, and just say please get in touch. Any questions, any queries, see what's on the website. And if you want to have a webinar, want us to join you for a tutorial to discuss any questions, problems, how you want to maybe specialize, as you said, make the home inclusive for people with special needs, elderly people, the rest of it. Get in touch. We're here to help, and I really can't wait to see what you come up with. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.